Welcome back to At Home with Roby. I'm Patrick McIsaac from Roby Electric, along with Trent Haston from the Roby family of companies. We are your hosts. Trent, we got a full studio.
Yeah, man. We usually only are privileged to have one guest. Today we have two guests. We're going to rock your world, Charlotte. Sunday Morning Rocks. I'm going to introduce Brian Butler. He's a senior broker with Caldwell Banker Commercial Mecca. You're really Mecca.
Hey,
is
guys.
What I think of you as. But
how
you
doing,
doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing awesome.
And Brian, you're here because we're neighbors, business
That's
neighbors, right?
That's right.
We're on West Moorhead, just a little further down on Wilkinson. And the area, our neighborhood is Camp Greene.
That's right.
And there's a big deal. This summer, Camp Greene celebrates 100 years.
We've got one of the greatest historical events on the west side of Charlotte coming up this summer, July 15th. And it's the 100-year celebration of Camp Greene. The Neighborhood Association for Camp Greene I've been involved with for a few years, and we're planning this thing, and we're excited about it. And it's going to be a very patriotic festival honoring our local veterans and really trying to help us rebrand that neighborhood.
So Brian, this is Trent. I went to Harding. I hail from Harding University High School.
Nice.
I was the first university graduate 4 years. My sister went to Spa Middle School, which was the magnet that led into Harding during that time. So I stomped and knocked around Camp Greene. Never understood as a kid or a teenager what the historical significance of Camp Greene and what we should have been so very proud of in our backyard. And that's what we want Charlotte to learn about today. So.
Exactly, and I've got the right man to tell you about it. Dan Morrill from the Historic Landmarks Commission is here.
I plead guilty.
He's going to tell us all about it.
You know, the thing about it was so huge. There were more people at Camp Greene than there were in Charlotte. I mean, most people don't realize how big this thing was. This was a basic training camp for the United States Army. There were 2,300 acres. Remount Road was named for the remount station. There were 2,000 buildings. I know Roby would love that. 2,000 buildings.
Yeah,
were
we
put up.
didn't get that government contract.
No,
man.
boy, you would have been chomping at it though. You would have been chomping.
I didn't have a woman up there.
And there were now listen to this. There were 60,000. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but I'm telling you, there were a lot less than 60,000 people in Charlotte in 1917. It was huge. This was a massive camp. It was a flash in the pan. It came fast. It didn't last long. And it was gone quickly, but it was huge.
Well, Dan, why did they pick Charlotte specifically? Do you have any idea?
Listen, I know all about that too. You know, we live in a booster city. You know, it's boosterism here. It's growth, expansion, business. The Charlotte Chamber, when they found out that we were going into the war and that we were going to have to train a lot of men, they decided that they were going to have to put it in the South because essentially the weather was better and longer to be able to be outdoors.
Makes sense.
And the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce recruited. They went to see General Leonard Wood, who basically was the head of the Army at that time, and they brought him to town. They wined him and dined him. They took him on a tour. They showed him the lovely ground. I'm telling you, it was all part of Charlotte boosterism, growth. What did it mean? Gentlemen, 2,000 buildings. I mean, I know you salivate at the idea of 2,000. Can you imagine how many men it took to build those things?
I don't salivate when we didn't get to build them. You know what I'm saying? I cry. But things haven't changed because I'm a big advocate for our city, and I think the way we wine and booster and dine people and and we go study other cities and our chamber leadership today, it's good to hear that's why we have what we have today, because it's been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Well, it's been happening for a long time. And I have to say, too, this camp was named for Nathaniel Greene, Revolutionary War general, and we would not have the United States of America without Nathaniel Greene. So people ought to know. Greensboro is named for Nathaniel Greene, big guy. So it was really a substantial facility.
And that's what's so cool. And Dan, it's cool that you're telling these stories, and it's 100 years. And what Trent said is our office sits right across from the monument that signifies Camp Greene. And people have driven by that monument so many times, and they didn't realize where it was. And we're talking right at the corner of Moorhead and Wilkinson, and it's 100 years, Brian. I mean, Brian, this is a big deal, and I know you guys have put a lot of effort to try to get the word out and what this exactly meant for the city.
That's right. We've spent about 6 to 8 months just pulling this thing together, and we're trying to make a real fun, educational, kids and adult kind of event. So there's a lot of military components to this, and I wasn't from the military, so it's kind of new to me. And I know Dan can give us some more history on that. But in our event, we're going to have bugle calls at various times in the event.
That's awesome! Yeah.
Are you going to have any horses?
No horses
there were
right
a
now.
lot of horses.
Because it gets messy
Camp
with horses.
Greene.
How many horses, Dan? Do you have any idea?
You know, what I would say, I don't know, but I know it was in the thousands. It was a lot of horses, because that's basically how the Army moved at that time. Guns were pulled by horses. Men rode on horses. Horses were the basic element of supply and transportation.
But we've got 3 divisions were born out of that camp, and they're going to be returning to celebrate, and they're going to have their color guard here. The marching color guard for these divisions will be here, and we're going to have a flag-raising ceremony with them, as well as we're going to be burying a time capsule at the monument.
Wow. I mean, I got chill bumps when, you start talking like that. So how long was the camp open, Dan?
It was only open for a couple of years, and it did have its tragic side. Spanish influenza just absolutely ravaged the country. That was and there are these stories about the enormous contributions that the women of Charlotte made in the American Red Cross to deal with, unfortunately, shipping so many corpses home that died at that camp. But also there were very important people that were brought to Charlotte. Harry Dalton's a name that many people don't know, but he was a major benefactor of the Museum of Art, major benefactor at UNC Charlotte. Herbert Baxter, who was the mayor of Charlotte, who, by the way, is responsible for Independence Boulevard. If you don't like Independence Boulevard, blame Herbert Baxter. But they were brought to Charlotte because they were recruits. Well, they were draftees. I mean, they came here and saw Charlotte and experienced Charlotte, and it really did sort of open Charlotte. It was kind of like the Panthers and the Hornets of the early 20th century, made so many people in the country aware of Charlotte.
Well, I don't have a clue why you would think we wouldn't like Independence Boulevard.
Oh, that has got to be the smelliest thing I've ever been down in my life.
Kind of like all them horses on Camp Greene. We got about a minute here left. Dan and Brian, will you please stick around with us? But Brian, before we roll out, you're listening to the At Home with Roby show, and what are we talking about? What's the date? What is it? Let's give a quick rundown, and then we'll have you guys back with us.
It's July the 15th, Saturday, and it's starting at 11 a.m. at the Dowd House. The Dowd House is at the corner of Monument Avenue and Wilkinson Boulevard, right across from Christ Presbyterian Church. So this is a military patriotic event for adults and kids, and we're going to have also a gala that evening that we'll talk about here in a bit.
And Brian, we'll obviously, folks, if you're listening, we'll plaster this on the Roby Facebook pages. Is there a website or somewhere people can go for information?
There is a website, and the festival is free. The gala, you can go and buy the tickets on the website at historiccampgreene.com.
historiccampgreene.com. We've got to go to a break. We'll be right back.